start the recording here.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Mike Pittman with the Real Mike Pittman podcast. And joining us on the show today is a gentleman I have watched from a distance and became fast friends with him over 20 years ago as he came to Springfield, Illinois and spoke for us when I was the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce. And since that time, Mike has kind of been a silent mentor to me from business, and watched him over the years. He's he's done so much. I mean, I don't even know where to begin at. He's owned aviation company, hotels, developments in the Bahamas, just a little bit of everything. So, Mike, first of all, welcome to the show, and thank you for agreeing to come on, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Listen, whenever you call, you know I'm there. So you're the superstar. You run Illinois. I know that. So it's my pleasure to come and chat with you. And yes,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of developments over the years, even since we were there, because I've owned and built about 12 full power TV stations and sold them. Uh, I built a wireless phone company. I did all of Southern Illinois and the whole state of Missouri, took it public, and then sold it to Sprint. Um, and frankly, I've built over 100 companies, and I've employed over 11,000 people. 99% were African Americans, by the way. And even as we speak, I'm building a radio station now. After selling my last hotel in Detroit last year, in St. Louis, I'm building an FM radio station, and we'll be covering some of Southern Illinois, uh, and all of the greater St. Louis area, basically.
Wow, that is excellent, Mike. I know that you guys have had your fingers in so many different businesses over the years, and I know I remember the story that CNN did on you guys. You guys had over
Mm.
$1 billion in assets, so it's been very impressive to watch it, and just to watch how you navigated yourself through business. You also have written a couple of books. I know one of them is called Action Has No Season. And my favorite chapter in that book is called "Fake It Till You Make It," where you guys did the deal. You made about
Yeah,
$400 million, I believe it was.
yeah.
And that deal got you guys in Forbes magazine, and that was so that lets me know that there's hope for anybody out here. Whenever you could do a deal like that and and walk away with $400 million, that is very impressive.
Well,
You
Mike,
know,
thank you. Strategically, what we did was we converted that into the stock of the company, and like I always try to tell business people, and especially in my second book, Action Has No Season 2.0, that any successful business person will have moments where the outcome isn't as they would like. They may have downturns, and a good business person has to know how to manage those downturns. So if you have a large amount of assets, and then timeline issues start to take place, sometimes out of your control, like 2008, 2018, uh, and everybody's upside down. And although you may be okay, the banks that you're working with may not be okay. So they put pressure on you. So managing through, the shark infested waters is very critical. And that's why I've written books about how to manage those types of dilemmas. I think it's very important.
I know over the years, like I say, when you talk about the ups and downs, 2008, 2018, a lot of people got caught in that particular, I guess, bandwidth is that's the word to use in terms of businesses. And banks were doing different things. They were skittish, and they were calling loans and doing things of that nature. And yet you're still around. You're still here. You navigated your way through that, and all the experience that you gained through that. I want to talk a little bit about, I guess, black businesses, in terms of going into business, or some of our younger listeners, in terms of them wanting to be entrepreneurial. And I know you guys got started years ago in real estate in St. Louis. In your opinion, is real estate still the best investment, or now with social media and all the digital platforms, which you say that's, maybe that is taking precedent, Mike?
Well, I'm moving people to think more futuristically and looking at the emerging opportunities that are coming about through things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics. There's going to be, in the next 10 years, there's going to be more education and training and opportunities and advancement in civilization than there has been since the origin of man to now. That's how rapid and how much change will take place, largely as a result of quantum computing and the ability to move ideas quickly through a phase necessary to make it work. But there's fundamental issues. I mean, let's make sure that people recognize that when you have an idea or you have a dream, the first thing you have to do is wake up, and then you have to sit up and stand up. And unfortunately, a lot of our folks, we have relatives who will say, don't go into business, just get a job. And it's because somebody in their family, because cousin Tyrone tried it and didn't make it. Well, if you have an idea and a dream, especially in today's world, and you want to be a capitalist and entrepreneur, you have to sit up, stand up, and then you have to tell your own family to shut up and get out of your way. Yeah, it is just critical that we take a look at what's going on in the world around us. 50% of anyone who has a job that's redundant in nature will lose their job within the next 3 to 5 years. So now we have to look at how are we going to re-educate our people who have those types of jobs, because robotics will take it over. Um, Autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles will move in, and you'll probably see your Ubers and your Lyfts beginning to become driverless vehicles, because these cars will be prominent and dominant. But who's making these parts to these vehicles? Even if you look at the human body, the human body tends to, if we when we die, it's usually because an organ in our system shut down. But in the world of 3D printing, they're able to make artificial parts to the human body. They're already doing ears and noses. They're gradually working on hearts. They've done some for rats, and they're beginning to do some for infants. They're even trying to work on doing one for livers. So anybody listening, if you're an alcoholic, there's hope. We may be able to save you. Uh, but in the area of medicine, there's going to be all of these remarkable creations that's going to allow us to live much longer. The human will live a lot longer. Now, to your point and to your question, they still have to have somewhere to live. Real estate still has to be considered as one of the prominent areas for anyone to invest in, especially on the residential side, uh, because folks need a place to live. They have to reside someplace. So that can range from single homes to duplexes to complexes that allow for multiple seniors, for example, to live in. That's going to be a growing and emerging business. It's always been a staple in our community to own real estate, of course. I also own commercial real estate. But the buildings that I own in downtown St. Louis, I converted those buildings into loft apartments, and I rent them out. The first floor I try to keep commercial for various businesses, but everything above it is residential. So I'm a strong believer in sustaining the homes that our parents and grandparents worked so hard all their lives to donate, to give back to their children. This is their estate. This is what they're giving back. But unfortunately, so many of their children and grandchildren are so busy running out to the suburbs and leaving their homes in the inner cities vacant, only to find that there's a whole nother community of folks who are coming in and taking the very homes that your parents and grandparents worked day and night to be able to leave you. But instead of you recognizing the value, the gold that's connected to those homes, you make the terrible mistake of deciding, well, it's just better if I leave and go to perhaps a suburb, only to find before you know it, that suburban area becomes the next ghetto. So
Mm.
I'm just saying, hold on to your property, develop your property, and be cognizant of the fact that people will live longer, but people will always need a place to live.
That's interesting you say that, Mike. I grew up in St. Louis in the Peabody Doris Webby housing projects, and I remember Lafayette Square, that particular area, as a child growing up, was a slum area. Now that's that same area, homes over there, $400,000-$500,000 on the minimum, has pretty much been gentrified. And what's going on now with the Space Center, the Spy Center that they're building in St. Louis and basically in North
Right,
St. Louis, did you
right.
see that same thing happening down there in terms of gentrification for these areas that have been predominantly black? I mean, for decades, that's going to start to shift just by this particular development that's taking place.
No question about it. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar project. It's going to employ tons of people. And all those neighborhoods on Stoddard and Cass and areas that people didn't even want to drive through have now become and will continue to become very high-priced property. And that's how commerce works. I know you look at Wellston, there was an electric company that built various electrical components, and it was the core for Wellston. Wellston used to be vibrant. People lived there, people worked there. And when that company moved out, and there was another company that also moved out, it turned into a ghost town, literally. So commerce is important. If you're an investor, I think you should look at what's emerging in a given community and invest as close to you as you can to that bigger investment you'll grow in its shadow, so to speak.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about the Black community and talk about the dollars that we have available in the Black community. When you look at as a whole, our economy, I believe, is equal to the 12th largest country in the world gross national product, but we spend over 96, 97% of those dollars outside of our community. What can we do, in your opinion, to be able to create opportunities within our own neighborhood so that we are owning the business, we are owning the real estate, and we're circulating the dollars within our community, and it'll stay in there longer than a half hours. Maybe it'll stay in a week or 2 weeks, and by doing such, it touches many hands and creates many jobs. What's your
Well,
feeling on that, Mike?
yeah, you're talking about 1.2, $1.3 trillion on an annualized basis. And if that is the amount of money that touches the hands of African Americans, then what is the secret sauce to making it work? Well, why is it that in the Jewish community, it turns over at least 5 to 6 times? In the Asian community, at least about 4 or 5 times, maybe even 10 times in some cases. In our community, and it doesn't turn over at all. It comes in when the paychecks hit. It goes to a payroll, a check cashing center. A few bills are paid, your rent's paid, and then the rest of it, you go buy your kid some $150 Nikes, and then you're broke for the rest of the year and the rest of the month. That is a mentality that has to be broken, and I think that it's a mentality that is best spoken to as it relates to financial literacy through our churches, because they have the ears of the larger amount of people. Our politicians can't do it because they don't have the knowledge or the tenacity to get out here and do that, nor do they have the following on a regular basis. You follow me? So the only institution that has at least weekly exposure to vast numbers of Black folks are the churches. So what we need to do is get all of our ministers educated on the financial literacy question and begin to push them into repeating what that means, setting up classes and seminars in the evening at the churches, and be able to move our folks into a better understanding of how they can make money. And the way you make money is you let your money make money. That's how wealthy people do it. Their money is earning them money. And once we learn how to save and protect, our funds, I think we'll see a major change.
Yeah. And that's so true, Mike, when you talk about the church being the staple of the community, of the Black community for decades in terms of the meeting places and the shelter that they provided over the years and the dollars that are taken in on an annual basis by Black churches. And this is one of the things I know Dr. Claude Anderson, who you actually came in and spoke with that particular year, and he had talked about is the billions of dollars that Black churches have go through their hands, but yet they don't pool those resources together in order to start their own bank or to start their own credit union where they can at that point turn those dollars over. Do you think it's maybe because of denominational barriers that are probably some of the issues that keep the churches from working together and pooling their resources in order to be able to help the community?
Yes, the mega churches are doing it. I'm on the board of directors of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, and we have 15 to 20,000 members, and there's nothing but weekly activities that is giving back to the community. We're supporting Black businesses. They've created a Black Wall Street there. We push people to shop at the Black Wall Street in Lithonia area of Georgia. Stonecrest is called. And I've seen other churches in St. Louis. I've seen a number of them that have taken the time to start building affordable housing and senior citizens housing around their churches. But usually it's the younger pastors who are well educated, who's really picked up that mantra, that message, and they're beginning to use it. And I'm just hoping that the smaller churches, which may have limited funds, will still speak the language of the entrepreneur, speak the language of encouraging their parishioners to start a business, even if it's a part-time business compared to maybe a job that they have, and build that up until they're able to get their business large enough that it can sustain them.
Yeah. Now, I also know I read, Mike, too, that you actually have been in Africa here quite lately, and you have a title in Africa. And can you tell us a little bit about that and what you see in Africa in terms of opportunities for Blacks that live in the United States to possibly invest in Africa?
Yeah, those of us in the diaspora really have to take a strong look at Africa. I was installed in 2019 during the return of the royals as a king in Ghana, and then installed as a paramount chief in Sierra Leone. As a king, it's a Lord King for economic development, and here's what I envision the future to be. Let's take a page out of history for a moment. I remember back in the day when if you bought something, a watch or a transistor radio, which was the term back then, and anything that was stated that it was made in Japan was kind of a joke. Then if it was made in China, it was kind of a joke. Now it's India. My point is commerce has gone from Japan to China to India. Next stop, Africa. Because Africa is the wealthiest nation in the world, materials wise, and yet it's the poorest nation in the world. And so what we have to do is bring a higher level of education, especially in this world of technology that's our newest revolution, the digital revolution, and begin to help develop training locations to raise the academic understanding of technology and the business opportunities, because they will be the workforce for these emerging companies, because it'll be too expensive in India, too expensive in China, and it'll be more affordable in Africa. But one of the things we have to do as those of us in the diaspora is be a part of setting up those types of training institutions and are setting examples by coming in and actually doing business in Africa. And you know, our families in Africa are very, very interested in those of us in the diaspora. And I know we all talk about it, we think about it, we sometimes think it's expensive, but if you go there, you'll realize that the type of love that you will receive and the type of interest that our relatives, our family, our African family, uh, it's really like going home. We're the ones that's been in exile, but fortunately, many of us have learned and become successful, and now we need to work on bringing our strategies and secrets and educational bases back to them. So one of the things I find myself, I created something called the Roberts Innovation Group, the RIG for short, and we are interested in changing the direction of the HBCUs here in the United States, and trying to get more of our institutions to change some of their older curriculum. You know, public education started in 1900, and it had a curriculum, and that curriculum was created to support the industrialists as they were developing their businesses, Ford, on automobile business, etc. Well, the same curriculum, unfortunately, is still being taught today, basic curriculum, and we need to do is get the curriculum so that you can get a degree in cybersecurity, esports, drone technology, the metaverse. Uh, it's these emerging opportunities that are creating a wealth of business opportunities. For example, drones. Every fire department in the world, every one of them, every station will need a drone and a drone technologist, because the drone will be able to fly up and identify the hot spots if a house or a building is on fire, and you don't have to run the risk of a human being. Every police station in the world will need one, so that they can send a drone in to find the shooter or be able to deal with crime in different ways as a result of drones. Every farmer on the planet will want to have a drone, because it can fly over acres of land, study it, and bring back the data. So if we look at creating a curriculum for those who can both operate, build, repair, market, and then sell consulting services, now we're looking at a global business concept. I'm a futurist. I've always been ahead of the game. I've always built things before others recognize it, like my digital phone company. I was the first fully automated television station in the history of America when I built the one here in St. Louis, Channel 46, 100% automated. So, so I'm just saying that as a futurist, if you look at something as simple as drones and how that's going to ultimately, the role it will be playing uh, globally, and then there's going to be, understand that a drone is basically a flying robot. So we'll be transporting people in larger drones, much like buses are transporting people or trains are transporting people. It's going to be more cost efficient, safer, and it will change the way in which we live. So, the one question I'll ask every president of every country, I'm sorry, of every HBCU, Black college universities, is where do you think people are going to be 10 years from now? What are they going to be buying? And what will be the currency that they'll be using? Will cryptocurrency be the way in which we do business? And if that's the case, are we teaching our kids, the significance of cryptocurrency and the blockchain in which that is supported? And in the future, won't all of our real estate transactions and even the birth of our children be placed on a blockchain? And therefore, there will be this immutable capability to carry data globally, instantly, and it cannot be hacked because every computer system in the world will have the exact same data. You know, we're moving at a rapid pace here, and we have to be thinking about how we fit in. And the great thing about this emerging technology world, this evolution that's taking place, is that it's a level playing field in large measure. Artificial intelligence is something that we can get in and we need to be involved in, because if we're not careful, they will program artificial intelligence and that data could find its way to be discriminatory
Mm.
just because of the way it's being programmed into, into the orbit. Yeah. Am I making sense, Mike?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm following you.
All
You
right.
know, when I kind of got exposed to AI from a good friend of mine here lately, and I was just amazed at what this technology can do. And then when you talk about it actually, replacing people, replacing bodies, and just the speed as to it can do things, it is totally amazing. And to find out now that the government has actually saying, hey, this thing can be dangerous. I can't remember which one of the particular members of Congress wanted to do something from a legislative standpoint, if I'm not mistaken, to try to limit AI. But it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag now. And I don't think you can get the genie back in the bottle. So the best thing to do now is to figure out how to play in that field and to be
Mhm.
successful in it. So when we look
Oh,
at
yeah.
that from our standpoint as relates to Black Americans, the particular businesses that we own and being global from a digital standpoint, what would you say to individuals that uh, that are more for immigration, if you will, the individuals that are coming into the country uh, on thousands, seems like undocumented immigrants, and in terms of what these individuals are bringing to the table and how something like that plays with AI. I don't know if I'm making sense on something like that, but when you start talking about the labor pool and the labor force, and even because these individuals that are coming into the country more than likely will be, doing jobs that historically have been done by blacks throughout the country. And with the advent of AI, do you feel that these individuals will also be out of picture, or the AI will figure out some kind of way to work these individuals in because of the cost of the labor?
Well, first of all, uh, our ancestors were undocumented uh, also when they brought us in here. But as I said in a speech recently, uh, they did not bring slaves. They brought humans, but they enslaved us once we got here. And there's a big difference, and I want our people to understand how important words are. Words matter. Uh, so we were never slaves. We were enslaved, which is quite a different mindset. Uh, it is presumed that many of these immigrants that are coming in really are trying to do, or may be doing the jobs that Americans really don't want to do, include Black Americans. I mean, they're out in the open fields farming, or if they're, you know, doing the menial jobs at restaurants or whatnot. I will tell you, owning hotels and other businesses and talking to business people, I'm amazed at the lack of interest on the part of folks who to really work in the traditional sense. Um, so many have gotten used to working from home, trying to find ways to make it work. and getting some government assistance that it's kind of put us to sleep in many ways. But W.B. Du Bois made the position that there's always going to be the talented tenth. So that 10% will be there doing their thing and hopefully giving back to our community as they succeed. I mean, we've had so many billionaires created within the last 10, 20 years. You know, it's amazing. And and many of them are young and interested to find ways to give back and contribute back. And I submit the best way that will allow us to have a long-term gain is for us to take our K through 12 kids, link them into technology right away, STEM education, science, technology, uh, engineering, and math, and let's face it, you and I know, and anybody listening and watching, we could take a 2-year-old, give them a phone, and that 2-year-old will teach you how to use your phone. I mean, kids are just they have the capability. What we have to do is really embrace that instinct that they have for technology, and give them the tools that they need to really carve out a huge business future for themselves and our community. And it can be done, but we have to be mindful of change and realize that change is going to occur. And you will either be affected by the change or you can affect the change. So I just want us to be on the leadership side of change and not to be, caught up in a change that others are making, and we have to live with it. But change is inevitable.
Yeah, I know, Mike. Over the years, you've met and interacted with some of probably the most famous people in the world, the prince of presidents. I mean, just a numerous people. Who has probably, what you say, has been the person that you admired the most, remember the most, and influenced you the most in terms of the various individuals that you've met over the decades?
Well, interestingly enough, I think Minister Louis Farrakhan is one of the brightest leaders that I've run across. He articulates a position very well. He has consistent. He's very consistent with his messages. Of course, he's taken his hits for different different ways in which he expresses himself about different subject matters. But what I've learned is he's found a way to capture the attention and maintain the attention of the Nation of Islam. And I find that to be very extraordinary. I've met mayors, I've met presidents, I've met kings, um, but most of them are people who have power only as long as they have the title. Uh, I believe in authority, which is something that is quite different. I'll set a quick example of what I'm talking about. The difference between power and authority. I remember when George Bush and Condoleezza Rice went to India and Pakistan, and they tried to tell them, "Hey, listen, you guys don't need to battle over a few feet of land. You need to not go to war. If you do, you'll create a problem." Well, the heads of both of those countries just thumbed their nose and sent them back to Washington. But that was the most, quote, powerful man on the face of the earth. The President of the United States is whoever the president is. But if Michael Dell and the folks from Apple and the folks from Google and Amazon who are building facilities over there, if they were to go to those heads of those countries and say to them, if you guys start a border fight, I'm going to pull my businesses out of your country and affect the growth of your middle class. Now, the president had power, but those entrepreneur capitalists, they have authority. And the question is, which would you rather have, power or authority? And I write about that in my first book, Action Has No Season. Um, because I want people to recognize what is true authority, when it's all said and done, and that's a good example.
Yes, it is. Mike, also, I want to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and the effect that you feel that it had on the Black community. We know it was an economy killer uh, for several businesses, and some have never recovered from that regard. But as it relates to the Black community, what effect do you feel that COVID-19 had on our community?
Well, I think it kind of lulled us into believing that we could live off the government even more so. I mean, we were receiving free money. Now, there was a lot of free money going into the hands of people who didn't have that free money in the past. A lot of them chose not to go to work, well, or they couldn't go to work. But once they got accustomed to figuring out how to live off of that, that government assistance, they found ways to stay on it. That was a problem. And I'm gonna tell you, I ran into when I was hiring people, for example, in Detroit for my hotel. I'd have people come in indicating they wanted a job, wanted to work. They would come in, spend a day or two, and then leave. Or they would show up and describe how desperately they want, never even call to say they're not coming in. So it's almost like the government is saying you got to at least act like you're looking for a job, and then we can still continue to give you some money. And if you can prove you tried but didn't succeed, and I'm afraid that that may have taken place all over the country. So I think it was more of a blow to us psychologically than anything else, in that the vast number of people are really just trying to, to handle have their little hustle going on.
Man,
You know,
yeah, I mean, I know several businesses, business owners, a lot of Black businesses that, for the most part, they in the food business or some sort of service type business, whereby they had to shut their businesses down because they couldn't get help. They would raise the wages, $2 to $3 more an hour, and
that's right.
they still couldn't get help. And some of those same things are still happening right now. Let's turn to government a little bit, Mike, if you will, in terms of what's happening right now in our country with the government. We don't have a Speaker of the House. We have chaos. We have a former president that's been indicted 4 times, I believe. What is your feel as relates to politics right now in the Black community moving forward in terms of candidates that we should or shouldn't support or policies that are detrimental to us? What do you see that going, or what's your take on that?
Well, my take is it's business as usual. People get elected, they get comfortable with their little salaries, and they don't do much of anything. They don't speak out the way they should. They won't be able to pass legislation. They don't have that kind of juice or that kind of majority to be able to get that. They can write legislation and try to get momentum in the community to show that they're trying over and over and over. Um, but I don't see that too much. I know my nephew, Steve Roberts Jr., is a state senator in Missouri, and he's popping legislation on gun control and all types of legislation to help improve the conditions in our community. But because it's a Republican controlled House and Senate in Missouri and governor, excuse me, uh, it doesn't get very far. But at least if you can build some level of momentum and get people interested. But when it's all said and done, money talks. And if you build your business and your business creates the level of attention that's needed by politicians, then you can control the politician and what they have to say.
Mm, yeah, right
Excuse me.
now, no problem. In the state of Missouri, specifically there in St. Louis, there's a guy that I know, and I'm pretty sure you know him as well, by the name of Paul McKee, that had a project that he wanted to pretty much revitalize North St. Louis, and they bought several hundred properties and had gotten, I guess, some TIF funds or whatever from the city of Missouri. And I don't know if that project has actually ever materialized. I do know that the Spice Center land, I think it did belong to him at one time, or he sold that to the government. What's your take on that project, or is it still moving forward, or do you think that it was just something that was a hill that was insurmountable?
Well, the center you're talking about was his on Prodigal
Right.
lot. That's where that is. He bought all the property. He was buying property around it, so he knew in advance that this was coming potentially. So he started buying our inner city properties on the cheap, and he accumulated quite a few. But unfortunately, he didn't have his political agenda in place, and he met with some resistance. Now he's still doing it. He's still around, as I understand it, and the property is there, and he owns it, as far as I know. And I suspect at some point, if he lives long enough, he'll see, his vision come to pass.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, just a couple more questions, Mike, and I appreciate you taking the time, to be on
Sure.
with us. I want to talk about Black media and the
Hmm.
importance of Black media, which you know some about this in terms of having owned 11 to 12 TV stations, and now you're getting ready to do a radio station. How important is it for Black media to be able to tell the message, to get the story out, and not be hamstrung by the lack of finances to be able to get that word out? What's your feeling on Black media right now in the state that it's in?
Well, there's only one black-owned radio station in St. Louis, and that's mine. I built a TV station and sold it. There are no more black-owned anything on the media side. There are those who, like you, are doing podcasts and trying to, come through streaming in the internet, which is great. But it's unlikely people are going to drive around in their car and try to, pick you up. But they will listen to a radio station. So, my vision is for us to create a voice uh, for the Black community, about the Black community. We're also going to make sure that we have the type of music, not the ratchet rap kind of stuff, but nice, good, best of R&B and throwback jams kind of sound. It's going to be called Foxy 106.9 with Lou Times Jr., the original JR, is our general manager, and we're going to bring on several of the well-known names of talent. And it's really kind of, and I'll make this comment. Uh, I'm hiring, really great, talented people who built stations for white folks, but then they got fired as the station might change hands and whatnot. And it's really sad because they are so capable. So I'm going to give them a home to come to, and to help bring that message, so that we can have a proud symbol for others who are interested in the media to jump in again and be a part of it and create a voice, maybe own some other types of media delivery services. And again, I'm just trying to set an example.
Yeah. And when are you plan on launching it, or have you already launched it? You said.
We're waiting. We will be on the air probably by the end of the week.
Oh
This week.
wow.
Yeah,
Now,
we're waiting for the
uh,
fiber optic to be connecting to a certain point near the tower site. It's due to happen on the 13th of October. So within a week or two, we'll be on the air. But we'll go on the air first. We'll give people a chance to find us, and then we'll start bringing our talents in about 25 or 30 days later, and then it'll operate. It's a business strategy that we feel we have to go through. We'll start our sales, of course, and get it going.
now will it be all
Yeah,
music, or will you have any talk radio as well, or just all
yeah.
music?
We'll have some have conversation radio and on Sunday mornings. We'll have people chime in on our morning show every once in a while and give some commentary here and there. Um, I mean, we're an entertainment venue with some of the capability of course, being able to raise issues when they come up and be able to discuss the Black perspective on those issues. I own it, so I'll do whatever I feel. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. Let's put it that way, And
Yeah,
so, I financed it. I built it. I own it. I don't have any debt. I built it in one of my strip shopping centers. So I'm my own landlord, and my position is pretty simple. You do the right thing, and our people will support us. We're going to give them entertainment that they will enjoy. Uh, and Foxy 106.9 is going to be, attacking the system. Let's put it that way, and bringing, unity to our community at the same time.
yeah. So did Kathy Hughes sell their radio station in St. Louis?
Yes.
I know she had a station at one time. She sold it.
Yeah. Oh, she's selling
Mm.
quite a few. Yeah, I know Kathy well. She's a friend, but no,
It,
it's gone. That's my point. Even some of the people that used to work there that were really making the station money, they they are no longer there. So I'm picking up some of that great talent that's out here, doing other menial jobs, but they want to be back on the air and they deserve to be back on the air. So this is
yeah,
something that I'm hoping to provide for
yeah.
those talented folks.
Yeah, I know talk radio in St. Louis is really big on Sundays. I remember,
Mhm.
years ago, in Horton, that had the sports
Mhm.
show. My good
Mhm.
friend of mine I grew up with in the projects down there who recently passed was Demetrius Johnson, who had the radio show. I
Sure.
believe it was on Kathy Hughes' show. When Demetrius and I had been friends for probably 40 years. We go way
Yeah.
back to the Bars and Webby. So I was really sad to see him perish, though.
Oh, I
But
know. He
Mike,
was he was my good friend too, and we go back at least that, if not longer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I know his brother has a restaurant there over on Washington called Gary's. And I just spoke with him recently in terms of, and he's still trying to make that work, directly across the street from the Fox Theater. Mike, I
I know.
appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on the show with us. Do you have anything else you'd like to add or
Well,
share
no, I just
that
want to say that our radio station will be terrestrial. It'll be analog. It'll be digital, but we'll also be streaming. So anybody in the world will be able to find us and hear us, no matter where we are. No matter where they are in the world. If they have the internet, they'll be able to find us. Also, as I said, I've written those two books. Action has no season, and Action has no season 2.0. But I've written a novel as well, The President's Secret, a royal bloodline. And I don't know why I decided to do that, but it was in me. It took forever, but I did get it out a couple of years ago, and I encourage folks to read it. It's fun reading and interesting.
where
But
can they
Mike,
get
I want
that?
to thank you for giving me the chance to be on
Sure, Mike.
your magnificent show, and I hope to see you again one day. And I trust you'll continue to do what you're doing, and that is serving our people with knowledge and information. We all thank you for that.
Okay. Well, Mike, it's good talking to you. It's been a while since I've talked to you. And next time I'm in the St. Louis area, I'm going to give you a call. Maybe we can get together.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Bye.